Armand here with your forecast for the week of October 15th, 2023. Hey, that was a hell of a last week we had, huh? Right? It was very, very tense at the individual level, and of course, collectively, it was a real shit show. I thought that the Kevin McCarthy losing the Speaker of the House and unable to find another Speaker for the U.S. House of Representatives was pretty much the kind of thing we would be looking at. It's Mars square to Pluto. There's a power struggle between the warrior and the power broker. But Mars in Libra, it's going to play out more or less on a verbal level. It's going to play out more. Actually, the Libra rules the legislature in a country's chart. So it seemed to be very much what that was about. And it was about that. But it wasn't just about that. The power of Mars squaring, stationing Pluto was just a little too much. And of course, everything that worked itself out as the week went on, with Pluto station on Tuesday and Mars went into Scorpio on Thursday. And then the eclipse on October 14th, Saturday, which might actually be when some of you were watching this. So there was a lot going on. And on the collective level, at least, it doesn't look like we made the best of it. I don't like to make predictions or even discuss possibilities and things like that, and saying, well, something really awful is going to happen. It had the potential, but then again, the potential might be there, but we have to make our decisions about what we're going to do. And sometimes some of us choose really, really poorly. Okay, so this week, starting on October 15th, all better, right? I'll tell you, we are in the midst of it. I said, when I was talking about August, September, I said, the thing about it is not that things are so easy and everything's going along fine. It's that we don't have new stuff on our plates to deal with. And this was what the eclipse season from mid or even sort of early October onwards is about, is getting new stuff to deal with. Collectively, yes, but also personally. So let's think about that. There's new stuff coming up. Last week really seeded a lot of things, and this week will continue that energy forward. Let's talk about it. First of all, we come out of the eclipse and you think, well, we're waxing away from the eclipse. Things are going to go well. Well, yeah. Except on Sunday, the moon goes into Scorpio. That's always kind of an intense time. That's always a time when people pull inwards, where a degree of protectiveness and caution is going to be strong. And the first thing that the moon does is go over Mars in Scorpio. And again, that's really pulling us inwards. That's really pulling us towards our core. And what I want to say about that is that we're liable to be a little too risk averse with this placement of the moon in Scorpio going over Mars. The moon will eventually sextile Pluto. Technically speaking, a good thing. Then the moon's not happy, though. The moon's not crazy about being in Scorpio, and Pluto's in Capricorn, which the moon isn't crazy about either. So collectively, the tension is likely to continue Sunday, Monday into Tuesday. Also on Tuesday, we have the Sun and Mercury going over the nodes of the moon, going over the south node of the moon. That's the more exact eclipse point. The eclipse was back at the full moon at 21 degrees of Libra, and now the Sun will have made his way, and Mercury tagging along will make his way onto the nodes on Tuesday. So we're feeling that also too. And that is a lot of the, in general, I would say that is a little bit of spinning our wheels and unable to come to a decision about things. But I think that the tensions that are around with the Scorpio moon and the eclipses and stuff like that make it a little bit more than that. That's, again, a very tense kind of feeling. The eclipse energy reverberates. It's not like we had the eclipse and then it drops off and now we're going to wait for something to happen. No, it reverberates. It reverberates with these things. So what we were feeling towards toward what last week was, this week is, at least as far as Tuesday. I think the sun actually touches the node on the earliest hours of Wednesday, but it's all what we're feeling as we build up to it. And then the moon goes into Sagittarius at midweek from later on Tuesday all the way through Thursday. And we say, well, that's good. That's a positive. And it is. It is. Sagittarius is a fire sign. It's lighting things up a little bit. It is giving us a little bit more hope and enthusiasm. The other side of Sagittarius, though, is that it can really polarize folks, right? The feel with Sagittarius is one of either looking for the truth or thinking that you found it. Right? So if you're looking for the truth, you're exploring, you're moving from thing to thing. If you think you found it, we have the potential for dogma. And of course, anybody can be dogmatic. Anybody can be dogmatic at any point in time, right? It's not like the established folks are the only ones who get to be dogmatic. Anybody can be dogmatic. You can be dogmatic about anything. You can be dogmatic about astrology. Astrologers are sometimes. So the polarizing potential of Sagittarius might be something that we feel and have to deal with. We get towards the back end of the week. Well, that's got to be better, right? Yeah, but now the sun and Mercury are coming into a square with Pluto. And that would almost sound like a trigger to the Pluto station and the eclipse in and of itself. So as we get towards the weekend, Thursday, Friday into Saturday, we're dealing with that sort of energy. We're dealing with this kind of, it actually is a more release point of all the, when there's obviously been a lot of releasing going on, but of all the energies that have been concentrated, and we're saying, when are we going to find release? This is a release point. There's more to come, but this is a release point for the tensions that we've been feeling. So with Mercury squaring Pluto, we have what we could call speaking truth to power, saying what needs to be said, speaking your truth. And the sun is ready to act out the truth. It's not that easy for the sun in Libra because there's too much of that taking the other's perspective. We could hope that those of us who are trying will be able to take the other's perspective, even as we tell them what the story is from our perspective. We can hope for that. But again, be aware, this is a tense time. We have some good news, astrologically, there's some good news in the cosmic weather forecast over here. And that is that Venus is going to be trine to Jupiter. And these two planets get along well. A trine is an easy aspect. Venus is our enjoyment, what we love doing. Jupiter makes everything bigger. Jupiter is in Venus's home sign of Taurus, which is great. He's sending her a little reminder that, there are things to be enjoyed. Venus is in Virgo, where it's a little bit more about being reserved and a little careful, taking things one step at a time, taking the healthy alternatives. But Jupiter is saying, come on, go ahead, have that extra piece of tofu. Nobody's watching. So we should get a little of that energy, at least on the weekend. It may get buried under some of the other tensions. Of course, at this time, what's going on in our personal lives and what's going on in the world are really so incredibly intertwined. And our emotions, our feelings are all tied in together. And I know that there's been a lot of fear, which is not necessarily inappropriate. And we don't necessarily have a sense of having a lot of control of what's going on, because as the collective moves, and there's a lot of things going on in the collective that are concerning, and some of them have been for a while, and some of them are making themselves more apparent right now. But the collective, as I always say, the collective is not something you watch on the news. The collective is where you live. The collective is where we live. We live amongst others. We live here with others on the planet. This is not something that is going on outside of us. And I think that many of us have a lot of personal connections to things anyway, that we know that this is an important matter for us, is an important time for us. And we should be aware that the collective vibe, right? You and I could be great. The collective vibe is not great, and it's not gonna be great. You know, I'm not the doom and gloom astrologer, but the collective vibe is not going to be great over the course of the next couple of weeks. It wasn't great last week, not going to be great this week. It's not going to be any big party for the very near future. We have to deal with that. We have to deal with that as mindfully and as compassionately as possible. It's not the case that we can say, I'm not going to look at it. Don't look at it too much. Don't look at it too much. And, you know, take your pulse or whatever it is while you're doing it, to make sure that you don't get too wrapped up in things. But be aware that this is something that is going to affect us a lot. The vibe in the collective is going to have a big effect on us personally. Try not to let it leak into your relationships. Try not to let it, your personal relationships, your relationship with coworkers. Try not to have it completely derail your plans. Try not to react too much to things. Try to take a step back as much as you possibly can. Not the easiest thing in the world. This week is very tense, and last week was very tense. And next week, when we have the lunar eclipse, is going to be very tense. And we'll talk about that, you know when.